Is negative 4 pi over 3 in one full rotation? No, it's not. How do I get it between basically one full rotation? Before, if it was degrees, you can add or subtract 360. You want to subtract 2 pi. We're going to add 2 pi. So 2 pi with a denominator of 3, a common denominator would be 6 pi over 3. Brooklyn, negative 4 plus 6. Cosine at 2 pi over 3. Raise your hand if you got 2 pi over 3 as a coterminal. Okay, now let's go put this on our unit circle. I need a common denominator of 3. Well, there is no common denominator of 3. Would I multiply the numbers by 1/2? Well, this might make sense to you. If I get a common denominator of 3 on this side, I get 3 pi over 3. So class, is it going to be above or below? Above. So now I can find another equivalent fraction that might help. If I get cosine of 4 pi over 6, right? Because that's equivalent. This would be 6 pi over 6, and this one would be 3 pi over 6. So 4 pi over 6 is going to be about here. The reason why it's about here, because this is 3 pi over 6, and this is 6 pi over 6, and I'm looking for 4 pi over 6. This distance here would be 3 pi over 6, and this would be pi over 6. Class, is pi over 6 my reference angle? No, it's not. To make my bow tie, I'm going to draw down. That means my reference angle is going to be what? 2 pi over 6, which reduces to pi over 3. Now, in the very beginning, you could have changed the radians to what? You could have changed it to degrees. Now, I want you to be comfortable working with radians, and at this point, you may not know enough information to understand what type of angle is this, what type of special right triangle it is. If I come all the way over here on my circle, this order pair over here in the very beginning is pi equals 180 degrees. Pi, radians, and 180 degrees is the same position. So pi is equal to 180. 180 divided by 3 is how much, class? 60. So essentially what you have here is a 60-degree triangle. What type of triangle, class? It's getting kind of messy, so I'm just going to draw a triangle over here. Class, if this is a 60, this has to be a 30. Look at your notes. Always across a 30, you're going to have a what? 1, 2, or radical 3? A 1. Now, this is your x value, so your x value in this case is going to be negative because you're going left. Always across the 60 is a what? Radical 3, and that's your y value. In this case, it's positive because you're going up. Always across the 90, you have a r value. R's are always positive. In this case, I'm finding cosine, which is x over r. My x value in this case is negative 1 over 2, and that's my answer. Cosine at negative 4 pi over 3, its coterminal angle is essentially cosine 2 pi over 3 or cosine of 4 pi over 6. Anything with a denominator of 6 or a 3 is essentially a 30, 60, 90 triangle. We learned an acronym to double check where it's positive. Here in quadrant 2, sine and cosecant are positive, and there everything else is negative, which matches our answer. You could have written the negative sign right in the middle. But cosine, in this case, is going to be negative 1/2.